What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto got a drunk princess pregnant? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Hinata was so to say in a depressed mood. Reason was she hadn't been able to protect her friend earlier that day, when they were encountered by some missing nin of Iwa. He didn't blame her though, and he wasn't fatally wounded, but that didn't help her to feel better. So now the shy Kunoichi was wandering over the streets of the town she was staying for the mission, pondering over her failure. It was already past 11 in the night. Her teammates and sensei were asleep in the hotel room she had sneaked out, because she couldn't sleep. Since the day the one she loved left the village for training more 4 years ago, she had pushed herself into training and more training. Trying very hard to improve her skills, it had paid off. She had even reached the rank of Chunin. Her once oversized vest was replaced by a new one that showed of her curves, and her hair had grown. She liked it, except for the stares she got from some boys in the village. Other than that, she liked her new look. Hinata stopped. She was in some dark alley every town has. Better turn around and go back, she thought, but then her eye was caught by something. There was a door open so that you could hear the noise inside. A lot of laughter came out from it, and getting curious, Hinata walked to it. She found out it was a pub, an illegal pub actually. Normally she would have just turned around and go some other way, but tonight she felt depressed and found herself inside not a minute later. Finding herself a stool, she looked around, seeing a lot of people her age, drinking beer and sake and other strong drinks. She sat down on some empty seat at the bar, or what's supposed to be the bar. "What does this beautiful young lady want?" the barkeeper asked with a generous smile. Hinata thought it over. She didn't know much about drinks with alcohol, after all she never had one. "Just give me something strong," she heard herself saying in a not interested tone. "On the way, ma lady," the barkeeper smiled. Not long after that she received her drink and looked at it for a moment. This would be her very first alcoholic drink, and she got it without trouble, even though she was underaged. With a sigh she grabbed the glass and drank the liquid without a pause. In a little bit loud way she placed it on the bar again. "That wasn't too bad. Hey you, give me another one of this," she said to the barkeeper. When she had finished her second and third in the same way she had drunk the first, she ordered a fourth, which she just held in her hand so nobody would steal it. Her depressed mood was gone thanks to the alcohol. Taking it now more slowly, Hinata looked around and listened to her surroundings. "So the guy, Giggle, keeps telling me the 3 no-nos of a ninja. Money, alcohol and women, but guess what her does every evening?" she heard someone saying pretty loudly. "He goes to a casino, drinks a lot and ends up in a bed with a woman," another said. The first one started to laugh. "He would wish for that last one. But basically you're right, Giggle, he even uses ma money." "Ma money? So tonight I snuck away after getting some of his money," the young man said proudly. There was an outburst of laughter and words as, "Well done." Hinata giggled somewhat about it and took a nip from her drink. After that she started leaning on the bar looking into nothing. "Hey barkeeper, give me another sake would ya?" The person that had been talking about the 3 no-nos of a ninja was now sitting next to her. Hinata drank the rest of her whatever she was drinking and said in rather loud way, "While you're at it give me one too," and placed her empty glass on the bar again. "I'm sitting to a girl with guts," the man next to her laughed in a drunken way. Hinata looked to the side with a not interested look. "Hey, the girl with guts happens to be Hinata," the man said, surprised but still laughing. Now Hinata started to take in his appearance. Blonde hair, orange with black clothes, whisker marks on his cheeks. "What, it's Naruto? After 4 years he's sitting next to me and says I have guts?" If it had been every other day, she would have just passed out after hearing this. But the alcohol in her body kept her from doing so, and she smiled at him. "Naruto-kun, nice to see you again after 4 years. Heh, why don't ya join us? Sitting alone isn't fun, come on." The blonde pulled the young Hyuga heiress of her stool in a generous way, and the two walked to the table with their new drinks. "Hey everyone, hick, I would like you to meet ma friend. This is Hinata, she's been the only one in ma village who has been nice to me." Naruto giggled as he sat down. Hinata grinned about his introduction and was pleased with it. She sat down next to him. "So you're the only one who treated our friend here with respect?" "You're our friend now as well," one said. Yeah, everyone that treats us so-called trash with respect is our friend, another said and gulped down some sake. Ma family treated me like trash, Hinata stated completely drunk. True, true. Naruto started excited. I kicked her cousin's butt for hurting her, ha ha ha. Next time I'll be the one to kick Neji's butt, Hinata giggled. They all laughed and Naruto came to the conclusion his sake bottle was empty once again. Yo, mud face. Bring over some sake. And be fast or else you will meet Ma's special jutsu, he shouted to the barkeeper. So a minute later the table Hinata and Naruto were sitting at got another round of sake. Hinata enjoyed herself pretty much, she laughed a lot and talked a lot, without stuttering. She didn't even faint when Naruto threw his arm around her shoulder for a reason she didn't catch or simply forgot a second after it happened. The fun was soon interrupted when the town's patrol came in a rather loud way so to say. Run, people said laughing and completely drunk. Hinata found herself pulled by Naruto, who enjoying this sudden event. Come on, let's run for it, Hinata, he told her giggling. She only nodded with a smile and the two Konoha shinobi quickly made their way to the exit. After they were a few streets away from the illegal pub they stopped. The two looked at each other with silence for a second, then they burst into laughter. That was fun, Hinata admitted. And we didn't even have to pay for all that sake, Naruto grinned. How much did you have? Hinata asked. Don't remember. Me neither. The two laughed some more and then Naruto got the money he had stolen from his sensei. Well, what should we do with this? He asked Hinata. I don't want to give it back to that stupid Ero Sennin. It's still early. It's past midnight. Let's enjoy ourselves at some restaurant or so, Hinata suggested. They don't allow underage people without adults at this time. I already tried. Naruto sighed a little, still having a drunken blush on his cheeks. The blonde leant against the wall of some house or shop. Whatever it was he didn't care and just leant against it, while his friend was pondering over what to do. That little pondering and bored moment didn't take long, for they heard people shouting to somebody else. Try to find those who escaped from that pub. Naruto started to laugh. I know something. Let's tease those stupid guards that give away their position by shouting at each other. They aren't smart indeed, Hinata giggled. Let's just wait until they see us and then run away, Naruto said with a big smile. Enjoying this feeling of adrenaline in her body, Hinata agreed with a nod. It didn't take long before one of the patrols found the two. They started running like two drunken idiots, what they actually were at that very moment, and it didn't take long before they lost the man by hiding into a very small alley, what seemed to be a dump for garbage. Both having their hands on their mouth in order not to start laughing, the two were hiding there very close to each other. That was not noticed until the guard was gone and their little fun was over again. You've never been this close without passing out, Hinata, Naruto said with a smile on his face. Must be the alcohol, the kunoichi gave his answer, not moving 1 inch. So how have ya been? What are y'all actually doing here in this boring town? Naruto asked, remaining in the same position as well. Boring B mission. Kiba got hurt though, mostly ma fault. What about you? Stupid Ero Sennin wanted to go to this town. He says the ladies here are nice. Perverted bastard dumped me at the hotel and took ma money to entertain himself. And so ya took his? Yup, Naruto said sheepish. When will you come back home? Don't know, kinda forgot, the drunken blonde laughed. He looked over at her, she was giggling about his answer. His drunken face trailed up to a perverted drunken face. Nay Hinata, I know something we could do, but we will only do it if you agree. Hinata gave him a look that she was wondering what he was talking about. Let's have all the 3 no-nos tonight. Even though Hinata was drunk, she understood what he meant and her face turned to crimson red. You mean? Her answer came over as he kissed her full on her mouth, in actually not a rude way but very gentle. I saw a love hotel some streets away from here. They don't ask about age at all. I even saw some 14-year-old entering. We need the money to get in. What do y'all think? He whispered after letting go. The fact that Hinata was taken aback by this unexpected happening would be an understatement. She kept staring at him for a few minutes, processing that had kissed her and was now asking to go to some love hotel. Being a little more impulsive because of the alcohol, she pressed her lips on his, stopped for a small moment to say yes and then started kissing him again. While kissing the girl back for several minutes, the two took her to the love hotel Naruto had seen earlier on that day. Naruto looked up at the ceiling with a satisfied smile on his face. Somewhere at the end of the bed were the sheets they didn't need because it was warm enough. Hinata was laying next to him and kissed him on his cheek. It's getting late, we should head back or else they'll notice we left. Naruto turned on his side just to kiss the girl some more. She gave in to that for only 5 minutes, then she gently pushed him away, what needed a lot of willpower of the shy kunoichi. Naruto-kun, I know, the blonde sighed and pushed himself up. He rather wanted to spend some more time with her or at least sleep with her, but he knew that Jiraiya would ask awkward questions about his whereabouts this night if he did. Teasing the girl while she pulled on her clothes, he enjoyed himself for another 10 minutes. Naruto had pulled his own clothes rather fast. Let me bring you back to where you were staying. Lead the way, princess, he said grinning. Hinata giggled at his comment, while the two left hand in hand, both not noticing Naruto had left his shirt behind. Not that much later the two had snuck into the hotel Hinata was staying. It was dark and there was no one in the lobby, what was luck for them. I see you again when you're back home, Hinata said smiling at him. Whenever that will be. Damn, I wish I knew. I want to have another night like this one with you, Hinata, Naruto said, giving her another kiss, but just on her cheek, which caused Hinata to blush a bit more, though that wasn't visible due to the blush she constantly had because of her being drunk. I gotta go, he whispered, sounding depressed about it. Hurry, it's starting to rain. Naruto looked over to the door and through the windows of it he saw raindrops falling to the ground. He looked back at her and nodded with a smile. Until next time, Hinata. Hinata just giggled and gave him a push that he had to leave. Naruto did, and because of the rain and the fact the hotel hadn't placed cameras, what was rather stupid, no one would know he had been there that night or that Hinata had ever left the hotel. Only those two would know, well, if they hadn't been as drunk as they were. Naruto, wake up! A stern voice that belonged to one of the great legendary Sannin said. Naruto growled and turned around, trying to ignore him. Did you steal some of my money last night? Naruto, are you listening to me? Shut up already. My head already hurts enough without you being loud in your annoying voice, Naruto replied, whining. What have you been doing last night? Naruto gave another growl. Could you at least try to be less loud, Ero Sennin? Fine, Jiraiya said, pissed off. Why did you steal money from me? Where have you been last night? Why are you sleeping in your clothes? And why aren't you wearing your shirt? My shirt? Clothes? No idea, Naruto gave his answer. My head hurts like it could split in two. Do you have any idea of what you did with the money you took or where you have been last night? Stop asking questions, okay. I will stop when I know the answers. Fine, the only thing I remember, I took your money because you have taken mine. And I went to some illegal bar with it. Happy now? Now let me sleep, damn it. To Naruto's annoyance, Jiraiya started snorting. Naruto, how much did you drink? The white-haired man asked, chuckling. Don't remember, the young shinobi grunted. This said the Sannin just started to laugh more, what made Naruto place his head under his pillow, though that didn't help much. And, how does a hangover feel? Terrible, Naruto admitted. Didn't you do anything else? No, not that I remember though. Now could you leave me alone? Alright, but I think I will have to tell you again. The 3 no-nos of a ninja are. Shut up and leave. Hinata woke up not feeling so well. First of all, she felt like throwing up. Second, she was dizzy, and on top of that she had a headache she never had before. When she heard the door open, she didn't try to get up to see who it was. Hinata, get up. We have to discuss a new plan to catch, are you alright? From the voice Hinata could tell it was Kiba. He was probably standing in the doorway for a few seconds. Sensei, I think there's something wrong with Hinata. His shouting voice wasn't very comfortable for her head. She heard footsteps and another voice. This time it belonged to her sensei. What is it? More footsteps, a hand on Hinata's forehead. She doesn't feel warm. Hinata, what is wrong? Feel sick, headache, dizzy, was all Hinata said in very soft tone. Do you think you will able to fight after a few more hours of sleep? Hinata shook her head a bit. She tried hard not to move or talk too much. The sick feeling increased in those moments. Okay, Kiba, get a glass of water and just put it on the night table. Then you watch over her. Shino and I will handle the mission. When Hinata feels any better we go back to the village. Kurenai ordered Kiba in such a way it didn't hurt Hinata's head more than it already did. Hi, the Inuzuka answered and left only to appear a minute later with the glass of water. Kurenai looked at her ill student. Just stay in bed, she told her. Hinata closed her eyes as answer, trying to go back to sleep while her teammate and his dog watched over her. Kurenai and Shino succeeded the mission, and the next day Hinata felt a lot better. Her headache was mostly gone and the sick feeling had disappeared after throwing up one time. She had reached the bathroom just in time. Did you eat anything wrong? Kurenai asked, wondering why her student was ill. Hinata was sitting in her bed and shook her head. I don't know why I felt like that, the young kunoichi said, but I feel much better now. You think you will be able to walk home? Hi, I will. Okay, we leave in an hour, but take it easy. Understood? Hi, sensei. Kurenai left Hinata alone in the room and Hinata sighed, somewhat relieved. Glad her teacher hadn't found out she had been off to an illegal bar. I think I drank too much that night. I can't remember anything after my third glass of that strong stuff, except for waking up with a hangover. For the next few years, no alcohol for me. Hinata stepped out of bed, took a quick shower and pulled on some clean clothes. When she was almost done packing her bag, Kiba entered her room with a knock. Are you feeling better now? Hi, I will able to walk home, don't worry. How's your arm doing? I told you not to worry about it, it's not that big. Come on, let's go. Kurenai-sensei is waiting for us. Hinata nodded. It was around a month after the little adventure the two young drunk had, though they didn't remember a thing of what had happened that night. Hinata wasn't feeling well again, and something she hated to do. She had done a lot the last few days, throwing up. The Hyuga heiress was laying in bed, feeling miserable. Any better? Said a voice that belonged to her cousin. No, Hinata sighed and looked at her cousin. Two other persons appeared, much to her and Neji's surprise. Neji, we have training, the young weapon master Kunoichi said. Hey, Hinata-san, how are you feeling? Came out of the mouth of Lee. I have had better days. Well, at least I don't have the urge of running to the bathroom to throw up today, so that's an improvement, Hinata answered. Why don't you go see Sakura-chan? Lee suggested, or I could ask her to come to you when I see her after training. Having another date with her? Tenten teased her teammate. Lee only gained some pink in his face and looked at Hinata, waiting for an answer. Thanks, Lee-san. I would appreciate if you ask her to come, if it's not too much to ask. I don't really feel well enough to go outside. Lee nodded with a smile. I will ask her. Hinata said goodbye to her cousin and his team and tried to get some more sleep. And she would have fallen asleep if it hadn't been for her father to enter. Trying to get up, she was pushed back into her pillow. Don't even try. I heard Lee will ask Sakura to look at you? Yes, father. Still feeling sick? And no, not at the moment. I hope I'm over that phase of whatever illness I have, Hinata said, shyly averting her father's gaze. He had starting to be nicer to her, but she was still somewhat uncomfortable around him, though she stuttered less than before when with him near. Hours after her little conversation with her father, Sakura came over. Hello, Hinata, she said as she entered Hinata's room. Hello, Sakura-san. Thanks for coming, I hope it isn't too much trouble, Hinata said. Nah, don't worry, the pink-haired smiled as she walked over to Hinata, who was now sitting up in bed. To the dark-haired, it was a relief she had been able to keep her food inside, instead of throwing it up a few hours later. She mostly got the urge for that when sitting up, this time it didn't happen. Turn a bit, Sakura said in a not really ordering way. Hinata did, and the medic examined her for a minute or so. At that time a surprised expression came on Sakura's face. Anyo, Hinata, could I ask you something? Of course. Do you have a boyfriend? No, Hinata suddenly stammered, taken aback by this question. I want Naruto as my boyfriend, but he's been off for quite some years. Maybe I now have the courage to tell him I love him. Why is Sakura asking such a question? Sakura-san, why are you asking? No reason, just interested. I'm done, by the way. Sakura went to a standing position, looking at Hinata with a face that made her rather nervous. Do you know why I feel so horrible? Yes, Sakura said after a short silence. She turned around. I think I'll first tell your father. I don't know how to tell you, sorry. It's okay, Hinata said, though she had hoped Sakura would tell her. The pink-haired medic left to talk to Hiyashi. Hinata heard a loud, "What the hell?" from her father, something very uncommon that made her worry more. The two talked some, for Hinata didn't hear Sakura leaving. After something of 10 minutes she heard footsteps and a door being opened and closed soon afterwards. Short after that her room door slid open and her father came inside with an "I am not believing what I just heard" face. This made Hinata so nervous she really wanted to know. "Father, what is wrong with me? Woa even no stuttering." Hiyashi looked at his daughter, shook his head a few times and then opened his mouth. "Hinata, there is nothing wrong with you." Hinata blinked a few times after hearing her father saying such a sentence to her. "Do you have a boyfriend?" "No, why are you asking the same question as Sakura-san? Did anybody ever used you? Touch you in a way you don't want?" No. Of course not. Only Naruto-kun may do such a thing, she added in her mind. Then she started to realize what her father had been asking. Father, are you saying that?" She couldn't continue. How to say this, her father started. It was the first time Hinata saw him ever struggling with words. Then he sighed. "Hinata, you're pregnant." "WW what?" Hinata whispered, "Unbelievable. But that's impossible. Are you sure nobody ever raped you, to put it that way?" "Of course I am. I would remember it, wouldn't I?" Hinata yelled, breaking into tears. Hiyashi was surprised that his shy daughter suddenly yelled at him. "Maybe someone placed a memory seal on you. Let me check." Hinata didn't protest while her father checked for a memory seal. The sigh he let out in the end was a giveaway there wasn't one. Hinata panicked. "When? How? Why me?" she thought as she sobbed more. For once her father didn't say crying was showing weakness. He just looked at his daughter and believed she really didn't know when it happened. Hiyashi was angry, of course, he wasn't such a bad father to not feel sorry for his daughter and all. He tried very hard to hold his temper at that moment under control. "Hinata, I could ask Tsunade to take it away. That is killing a child." "I can't do that," Hinata sobbed while shaking her head. "Hinata? No, father. I might be able to kill missing Nin, but I cannot kill an unborn child." The Hyuga leader sighed, though he was proud at his daughter to give such a reason. "Okay, in that case. Sakura told me it was healthy, but you need to talk to Tsunade and get regular checks. She also told me she doesn't know that yet." Thank you, father." Hinata only gave a soft and short smile. "There is one last thing you might want to know. It has nothing to do with this," Hiyashi said as he thought this would cheer her up if only a little. "What is that?" Hinata asked. "Uzumaki Naruto is returning at the end of this week. It's Tuesday, so in 5 more days." Hinata only gave slight nod and lay down. This news had actually made her more depressed. For she guessed Naruto wouldn't want her when knowing she was pregnant and was raped by some unknown guy, although she can't remember it at all. The only conclusion she could come to was that she had to give him up. The Hyuga leader sighed as he saw he got totally the opposite effect of what he had wanted. "Get some sleep and eat healthy," he finally said as went back to the door. When Hinata heard the door close, her actual sobbing, which she was able to suppress mostly, started. She was more in tears than ever and more confused, for she couldn't remember when such a thing had happened. As we all know, Sakura isn't someone to keep secrets like this away from her friends. Lee was the first one to hear, for he was her boyfriend after all, and he had been the one who told Sakura to go to Hinata. Neji and Tenten were second, because Neji was worried about his cousin. He was in shock, so to say. Tenten felt really sorry and asked when that happened. Sakura told she didn't know and they had to ask Hinata later. Neji, being a bit overprotective lately, had rushed over to the Hyuga compound to ask Hiyashi. When he came back, or rather, when he was about to go back and met Sakura, Lee and Tenten at the gate, he told Hinata didn't know herself. Now all of them found this really confusing, but knew very well Hinata wouldn't lie about such a thing. Next one to know was of course Ino. She and Sakura were friends again after a few months Naruto had left and there was no Sasuke to fight over. They had both decided to bury the hatchet and move on. Around a year ago the pink-haired had started to see Lee more frequently and he was now her boyfriend. Ino on the other hand was still single, maybe a little jealous at Sakura because she had a boyfriend, but happy for her. After Ino knew about this, it is not a big surprise that most knew about it, much to Hinata's displease. When Kiba heard about it, he was overwhelmed. He went over to her and promised her to help her if needed. Hinata had thanked him and asked to stop Ino from getting more people to know. He took care of that problem in about a half hour. He also told the rest of his friends not to talk to anybody about it, because Hinata didn't want it. So with respect for their friend they didn't, and they only talked about it with each other. Around the end of the week it was Ino who asked a question nobody had an answer for. They just remained in silence pondering over it. How would Naruto act when he hears about it? It was a warm day, but the shadows of the trees provided animal and human with a cool place. Also the little breeze was very much wanted and appreciated. A blonde-haired shinobi was very happy at that day, for he was finally returning home after 4 long years. He didn't let his mood bring down by the heat and moved along the road in a way that looked like jumping and dancing or something among those lines. "Naruto, would you stop hopping like a sissy girl?" said a very annoyed sensei. But even those hard words didn't take away Naruto's mood, though he did as he was told to and now just walked. Having his orange with black jacket knotted around his waist to cool down some more, it showed of his years of training with the legendary Sannin who was walking next to him. His blonde locks that were still spiky and uncared had grown somewhat. As for his height, well, nobody could call him a shrimp or midget anymore. Nearing the gate of Konoha, a big smile had appeared on his face as he saw his friends standing there. "Hey Naruto!" yelled a happy pink-haired while waving. Naruto impulsively ran over to them, still having that trademark smile on his face. But before he could do a step more, he was suddenly got caught in a hug. A man hug, to be precise, being Lee the one who hugged him. "Naruto-kun, I can just tell by seeing you are flaming with youthful power and ouch." Naruto stared bluntly at Lee, who had released him from the hug, and then blinked a few times, before believing what he saw. Lee had just received a hit on his head by Sakura, something that she normally does with him. "You promised me to stop with the youthful talking," said a bit annoyed Sakura. "Sorry, Sakura-chan," Lee said while rubbing his head. Sakura sighed and then turned to her teammate. "Good to see you back, Naruto," she smiled generous. "Good to be home," Naruto smiled back. While his friends were walking over to Naruto, Tsunade was in a somewhat shocked state about how much he now resembled his father. She wondered if the boy knew about his heritage, but decided to ask Jiraiya later on this day. Naruto then noticed Sakura was holding Lee's hand. "It seems you two started dating," Naruto grinned, pointing to the couple. Sakura blushed, as well did Lee, but he didn't avoid Naruto's gaze as Sakura did. "I'm sorry Naruto, but you just aren't my type of boy." "And Lee is?" Naruto chuckled in his head, though he didn't mind this at all. "Don't worry about it, Sakura. I'm just glad you're over the stupid bastard you kept on admiring. By the way, Tsunade Oba-chan, we heard Sasuke Teme beat the Habib bastard, or rather to say killed. Though I doubt that last one, he probably took someone else's body container." Naruto's friends and Tsunade were shocked to hear such reasoning from their dense friend. "Whoa, that sounded less dense than the Naruto I used to know," Sakura said. "You happened to always pass out or not to be there when I wasn't acting dense, as you put it, Sakura. For example, the fight with Gaara, but let's forget that, shall we?" They all, except for Jiraiya, looked at him with stunned faces. "What are you staring at me? Someone has to act somewhat grown up when around a clown as Jiraiya. He keeps wandering from training material. I sometimes just had to drag away from red light districts, what was rather annoying, so to say." "Acting grown up? What are you talking about, idiot? You were the childish one that got a hangover just because you sulked over the fact I gave myself an enjoyable night while I let you at the hotel. You used my money for that night. Talking about money, you still owe me some from that little adventure. You own me more than I own you." "Okay, enough," shouted Tsunade with a stern voice. Feeling her dangerous aura, the two shut their mouth. All gazes were turned to Naruto again, or actually still. "Naruto, you drank alcohol?" Tsunade wanted to know. "Yes, so what? Like you don't do that every day." Tsunade twitched a little at that remark. "How can you get alcohol? You're underaged. I went to some illegal pub, that's all." "How much did you drink?" "Enough to keep him in bed for 2 days with what he called a freaking headache," Jiraiya answered for Naruto. Naruto noticed Tsunade's was getting more pissed off, so he did a few steps backwards. But what he didn't expect that Tsunade went to Jiraiya to blame instead of him. "Weren't you supposed to watch over him? You and your perverted acts," Tsunade shouted as she tried to hit Jiraiya, who evaded the punch just in time. Jiraiya tried coming up with excuses, but Tsunade called them mischief and lame, giving another try to break some of Jiraiya's bones. Naruto sighed and turned his back to the slug and the pervert. "While they knock each other out, could I ask you guys a question?" "Sure," came from some of them. "Why isn't Hinata here?" Again, this was something that surprised them, but soon it was covered with a tense, sad fog. This sadness wasn't unnoticed by Naruto and it got him worried. Did something bad happen to her? he asked concerned. I don't know if you should call it bad. In one way I would say yes, in another I would say no. The answer is probably only for her to pick. Sakura gave his answer that once would have confused the blonde shinobi. If you say bad is for her to pick, I take it she isn't seriously ill, because that is something bad, right? Struck by his sharpness again, they nodded. Then what is it? Naruto asked. We kinda promised not to tell anyone else, Kiba started. I think you should ask her yourself, Tenten said. Naruto turned to Neji, who nodded, agreeing with Tenten. Okay, then I'll go see her. He glanced over the two Sannin and sighed, but I guess I have to wait. Ba-chan probably wants me with the report about what we have been doing those 4 years. About an hour later, Naruto found himself in the Hokage office with a still pissed of Tsunade and a Jiraiya with a black eye and several bruises. The report took long, too long according to Naruto, and he was happy when Tsunade finally dismissed him. When the boy was gone, Tsunade turned to her old teammate. Does he know who his parents are? No, not yet, though I think we have to tell him soon, before he finds out himself. I sometimes really had a hard time to keep it a secret from him, and as he told you a moment ago, he started making some of his own jutsu. You should have seen him change in acting, Jiraiya sighed. When I asked him about that new jutsu of his, he just mumbled something and I ended up in knowing nothing about it until I saw it with my own eyes, during one fight. But he still has his childish moments. Tsunade nodded. We should tell him over a few days. With both hands on his head, Naruto was searching for the Hyuga residence. He had never been there, and not in the mood for asking for directions, they wouldn't give him anyway. He was searching the whole village. That was until he met Neji and Tenten walking together, where to Naruto didn't know and he wasn't interested in it either. He only wanted to know the direction to the Hyuga compound. Neji! The blonde shouted a bit to get the Hyuga genius' attention. Neji turned his face to the voice as response and stopped walking. Naruto walked over to him. Anyo, I want to visit Hinata, but I don't know where you guys live, so could you give me the directions? Neji nodded and explained how Naruto had to get at the Hyuga mansion. Thanks, Naruto said and continued his walk. Around 10 minutes later he found it and knocked at the door. The door opened and he got a surprised look from the Hyuga leader. In turn, Naruto was surprised, because he had thought the heir would first check who was at his door with Byakugan before opening it. Uzumaki? Was the only thing the man said. Hi, may I speak with Hinata, if it isn't too much to ask? Naruto asked politely. What was another surprise for the Hyuga leader? After years, Naruto had learned how to blend in with different types of people. Now he thought the Hyuga clan was more of a being polite and strict clan, so decided to behave himself as much as possible and not to interrupt talking. You may follow me, Hiyashi said and turned around to lead him to Hinata's room. Thank you, Hiyashi-sama, Naruto smiled. Hinata had been eating something that she found out wouldn't return that morning. After that she had strolled around, read some books and scrolls in the study or bluntly stared into nothing. She still wasn't used to the fact she was pregnant and it would stay that way until she found out when it happened and with whom. At the moment there was knocking on the door, she was laying on her bed looking at the ceiling with a distant and sad look, not hearing the knocker, her father saying, Hinata, you have a visitor. Nor did the girl move when her door slid open. Someone entered her room and her father sighed, and then the door got closed again. Hinata? Now this voice came to the Hyuga heiress and it shocked her out of her staring. She turned her face to the one where the voice belonged to and was stunned and speechless. This was not only because his voice had sounded manlier or that the one gazing at her looked more grown up, but it was also because he was standing in her room. NN Naruto-kun? Hinata whispered. Hey, he smiled gently and seemed to look for something to sit down. Not finding a chair, he stared at the bed for a second but ended up in sitting on the floor. Hinata just kept on staring at him, trying with all her willpower not to burst out into crying, and succeeded in that. I heard there was something wrong with you, but nobody wanted to tell me what it was, so I got worried. Are you alright? Sakura said something about she didn't know it was good or bad and said only you can decide for that. Hinata failed her trying and a few tears rolled over her cheeks, what made Naruto panic a little. Hey Anyo, did I say something wrong? I didn't want to make you upset. Aren't I allowed to know? That last sentence was said in a somewhat sad tone. Hinata shook her head. Why, you didn't say something wrong and of course you are allowed to know. Oh, then what is it that made you cry? Hinata sat up and shoved so that she was sitting at the edge of her bed. Naruto looked up at her, waiting for a reply. She began after a while, but couldn't continue and started crying more. This was a sign for Naruto to stand up and sit down next to the sobbing girl. He laid an arm around her and pulled her closer. Because of this, Hinata blushed through her tears, but didn't pass out, what surprised her. "Don't push yourself, take your time," Naruto whispered gently. Hinata gave a small nod. After a while, both didn't know how long, she had calmed down enough to talk again. Naruto-kun, I am pregnant," she finally mumbled. Naruto stared at her with a stunned face, but some other expression was mixed with it, though Hinata didn't know what it was. Really? Was there disappointment in his voice? Hi, the shy Kunoichi said as she started looking at the floor. She expected Naruto to let go, but he didn't. That was actually mostly for the fact he was too surprised to do so. "I don't understand why. I'm not seeing anyone and no one got to me in such a way. I can't believe this happened to me and I don't know what to do," she said, confused while new tears appeared. "You mean, you don't know how you got pregnant?" Naruto asked after he got over his first shock. Hinata nodded that it was what she meant, not being able to say more. Now she expected him to leave or say some rude things, but that didn't happen. Instead of that, he pulled her closer and let her cry, making his shirt wet. "Hinata, if you want, I'll go find out who the father is." Her eyes widened. "And I will kick his butt for doing such an awful thing to you." Would you really do that? "Yes, it's a promise, that's what friends are for," Naruto smiled to her. "You just need to answer a few questions for me." Hinata got herself out of Naruto's hug. "I don't remember a thing of it," she hiccuped. "Don't worry, that's not my question, and even if you did I wouldn't ask you." "How far are you?" Now Hinata needed to think hard to remember what Tsunade had said to her yesterday. 4 weeks. Naruto nodded. "Do you remember what you did 4 weeks ago?" I went on a mission in a town 2 days traveling from here with my team. We were hunting down some missing nin of Iwa." Naruto nodded. "Something else?" "I mostly was at home, sometimes I went to the supermarket, but other than that." It was then that a shameful blush came on her face as she remembered what else she had been doing. "Hinata?" questioned the blonde, still sitting next to her on her bed. There is one other thing I did. It was during that mission." "What is it? Do you promise me not to tell anyone about it? I'm just really happy nobody found out." Naruto found this a little suspicious, but he nodded. I went to an illegal pub and drank some glasses of really strong stuff." "What do you mean with some?" "I can't remember how much I drank. The only thing I remember is that I woke up with a hangover, feeling very sick." Naruto was looking at her with staggered face, that slowly turned into amusement, and he started to grin. It's not funny. That's not why I am laughing, Hinata. It's just that I have had a hangover myself not that long ago. I had a freaking headache for 2 days." Really? You were drunk?" "Yeah, really." After a moment of staring at him, Hinata started to giggle. Naruto glanced at her with a smile. "Good to see you laugh again, it suits you more than a sad face." The comment made her blush in a few shades of red. Arigato, Naruto-kun. "Why are you thanking me?" Hinata only shook her head. Naruto finally shrugged his shoulders and smiled while standing up. "I think I better go now, I'm starting to get hungry." "Hey, do you want to join me with ramen?" Hinata chuckled again. "Some other time maybe, Naruto-kun." "Okay, take care of yourself, Hinata." Hinata nodded and Naruto left her room. "I didn't faint, not even when I was in his arms." "Oh my, he hugged me." Naruto walked down the corridor, feeling a little depressed for an unknown reason. The feeling was forgotten when he found out he was lost. The house was so big it was like a maze. Naruto tried going back to where he started, but ended nowhere. He sighed, stopped in the middle of the hallway and tried to find a way out of this maze. Lost, Uzumaki? Naruto turned around and faced Hiyashi for the second time that day. "Hi, a little, I should have been paying attention to where I was walking, but I am also not really used to large houses," Naruto answered a little nervous. "I will lead you to the exit." "That would be very much appreciated, thank you." Hiyashi nodded. "But before I do, I want to thank you." "Huh?" Naruto suddenly forgot to act polite, but was really confused by the words the Hyuga heir had said. "Hinata has been in a confused and sad mood since the day she knows about it. I take it she told you." "Yes, she told me. I promised her to help her find the man that did this to her and, to kick his butt." Naruto wasn't sure about how to say those last words. Save some for me, I would like him to meet with Juken, if you don't mind. No, not at all, Naruto answered, glad Hiyashi was caring about his eldest daughter. Now the thing I want to thank you for is to make Hinata smile again. I am really happy about that, so thank you, Naruto. Naruto scratched his neck, flattered to be thanked by the Hyuga leader who had even used his first name, instead of his last. No problem, let me guide you to the exit. Due to the fact Naruto had come home recently, he didn't get any missions and took this time to start his search for the bastard that made Hinata pregnant in the village. It didn't take him long to figure out it hadn't been anyone from Konoha, or at least it hadn't happened in the village. He was allowed from Tsunade to look at the videotapes from those days and said he was lucky they weren't erased yet, something that would happen a few days after Naruto looked at them. After finding this out, he wanted to search in that town Hinata had talked about, but the Hokage wouldn't let him, so the blonde spent some time with his friends, but most of them were sent on missions. Actually only one next to him was still in Konoha, that one was the girl now walking next to him. He had been visiting her every day to give her a report of his progress. Thanks for joining me, he said to the dark blue-haired Kunoichi. She got a warm smile on her face. No need to. Father said I should go with you. Really? He seems nicer to you than before. Maybe because I improved a lot and became a Chunin. Naruto looked at her in surprise, but it soon turned into a smile. Nobody told me that you became Chunin. Well, actually nobody told me about who got Chunin at all. Congratulations, I knew you could do it. Hinata gained a small blush on her face and whispered a thank you. What about the others? Well, they all became Chunin and Neji Ni-san is Jonin already. Well, that's a bit depressing for me to hear, now I'm the only Nin in our age group, he sighed. Hinata chuckled. Naruto smiled at that. She seems to cheer up more, I'm glad about that. It got me worried when I heard she had been sad for an entire week. The two shinobi entered the ramen stand. Konnichiwa, Tuchi-san. Naruto. You're back, the ramen man said cheerfully. Why, you mean you haven't been here since you returned, Naruto-kun? Asked a confused Hinata. No, actually not, Naruto said, scratching his neck. What about the day you asked me to join? Wait, I didn't stutter? I decided to wait until you could come with me, Naruto grinned. While Naruto sat down, Hinata looked at him with a blush on her face. Is she your girlfriend, Naruto? No, we're just friends, Naruto said bluntly and looked over to Hinata who was still standing. Aren't you going to sit down, Hinata? Oh of course. Yay, it's back, she thought ironically. Hinata sat down beside the blonde. What do you kids want? First bowl for free because Naruto is back. Oh yeah, that's awesome, I want miso pork. Naruto exclaimed. Hinata giggled a bit, coming to the conclusion he was still the same as he left. While eating, Naruto had to tell Tucci about ramen at other villages. Actually, there weren't ramen bars at every town. Some villages didn't serve ramen at all in restaurants, so I was forced to eat something else. But the ramen I ate was never as good as this one. He smiled and stuffed some new in his mouth. Of course I only serve the best ramen, the ramen man told. The topic changed to things he did, jutsu he learned and jokes he made to fool with Jiraiya. After 6 bowls for Naruto and 1 for Hinata, Naruto paid and the two left. Good Konoha ramen, yup, that's exactly what I needed, the blonde-haired grinned. Hinata found this comment amusing and grinned, while shaking her head. The pair just walked for a while, but Naruto's face became annoyed. Hinata thought it was her fault. He probably had something better to do than hang out with her. Anyo, I think I better go be back home, she said shyly again. Huh? Do you have to? Naruto didn't look at her but at the street they were walking. Arg, come on, let's get of this crowded road, I'm getting crazy. Without even be able to say something or ask what was wrong, Naruto got Hinata's hand and took her with him to some side road, where almost nobody was. Sorry about that, Naruto apologized with a sigh, not realizing he was still holding her hand. They were just driving me crazy. Hinata was confused and had no idea what he was talking about. And who he meant with, they. It took Naruto a moment or two to see her confused look. Didn't you notice? Did I notice what, Naruto-kun? They were all watching me. It has been like that all the time I walk over the streets and it's getting really annoying. Annoying? Naruto started to grin. You didn't notice at all. Let me show you. Just look at their faces. Still holding the girl's hand, he led her back to the main street, and after a while of just walking, Hinata noticed that people were indeed watching him. What staggered her even more was the fact that they weren't looking at him with hatred-filled eyes, what they used to do, but with surprised and confused faces. The two got on an empty side road again. "And did you notice now?" Naruto asked her. "Why yes, they all look confused or surprised." "Bingo," Naruto said, what made Hinata laugh again. "I really wonder why. At first I thought I was wearing something weird or so, but it happened every single day this week." He sighed again and looked at the ground. It was then he noticed he was still holding her hand, and it made him blush as he realized he had walked hand in hand with a girl on the main road. He quickly let go. Sorry," he mumbled. Hinata in turn blushed as well, because she hadn't been paying attention to the fact he was holding her hand the moment he started about the weird way the villagers acted by seeing him. Don't worry about it," she muttered, still flushed. "Oh okay." There was an awkward silent moment as the two looked at each other sideways. I don't know when I will come tomorrow," Naruto then said. "Huh? Oh, how's he come?" "Ba-chan wants to talk to me about something important. When I asked her if it was a mission, she said no, so I am really wondering what it is about. She also said it might take a while." Oh, okay. So if I haven't visited before 8 p.m., I won't come anymore, okay. The first thing I will do the next morning is coming over." Hinata nodded. She was alright with it. Naruto smiled at her. "Come on, let me bring you home." Hinata realized that she had said that she better had to go home. "I would appreciate that," she then smiled. Naruto nodded and they walked back to the Hyuga compound in silence and were avoiding the crowded roads. Reaching the big mansion, they started to walk slower and they stopped when they were in front of the big wooden door. Thanks for the ramen, Naruto-kun." Hinata smiled with some red in her face. "No problem, you can join me again sometime if you want." The shy girl nodded and opened the big gate door a bit. "Bye, until tomorrow or the day after that," Naruto said as he turned around. Hinata hesitated somewhat. That sentence had sound rather sad, so instead of entering her house she turned back to the one she loves and looked at his back for a second or two, before acting very impulsive. "Naruto-kun," she shouted a bit. Naruto stopped and looked over his shoulder to her with a questioned look. Hinata walked up to him, gathering all her force. He kept on looking at her and she had reached him. "What is it, hi?" He lost his ability to speak when the shy Kunoichi kissed him on his cheek. After that she ran back to the gate, quickly went inside and closed the door. Naruto stared stunned as some crimson red appeared on his cheeks. "Nata?" He finished the word he had started before this sudden event. After a while of just standing there and do nothing but breathing, he reached to his cheeks with his hand, trying to process it. After what happened the last day, Naruto was rather confused. He was laying on his bed in his apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking what the reason could have been Hinata had kissed him on his cheek. He laid his hand on the cheek again. He only received 2 kisses, or actually, 3. But the first one wasn't one he wanted to remember and also didn't count as a real one, for he had been pushed into it. So the first one was the one Tsunade had given on his forehead after saying he didn't see her as a Hokage. The second had been yesterday, given by Hinata. He rolled over to his side and saw the time on his alarm clock. The blonde pushed himself up from his bed, shook his head to get the event out of his head. It wasn't one he wanted to share with others, then Hinata and Tsunade might find out if he kept acting that he was spaced off. 10 minutes later he strolled down the streets to the Hokage Tower. Another 10 minutes later he entered Tsunade's office without knocking. "Hey, Ba-chan," the boy shouted, hiding his confusing behind his shouting. "Naruto, would you stop calling me that?" the blonde woman shouted back. Naruto noticed Jiraiya was in the room as well and wondered why that was. "What's so important?" he asked. "Sit down first," Tsunade ordered. He looked at her for a moment, before he sat down in an empty chair. Then he looked at the 2 Sannin again, who had such serious faces that it made him nervous. Tsunade looked over at Jiraiya and nodded once to him. Jiraiya nodded back as reply and looked at Naruto. "Naruto, we think you are now old enough to know this." "To know what?" the boy asked, confused. There was a silence, and he could hardly breathe. "Who your parents are," the white-haired man then said. Naruto almost fell off his chair when hearing that, but was able to prevent that from happening. What are you saying? You mean you knew them? Why have you never told me before?" Like Jiraiya just said, You weren't old enough to understand, the slug explained calmly. And practically everyone knew them, but no one knows you're their kid. This confused the blonde boy. Why's that? To protect you, that's also why you're wearing your mother's surname and not your father's. Protect me from what? Your father had a lot of enemies and they would go after you and kill you, if they found you were their kid. Then why did they agree with Kyuubi being sealed in me? Naruto stuttered with a very white face. Now this was a question they had hoped it wouldn't come yet. The slug and the pervert glanced at each other with a difficult expression on their face. Why did they agree? The normally hyperactive one repeated. We will answer that question in a moment, Tsunade finally said. Then who were they? Another silence until Jiraiya spoke. Your mother was Uzumaki Kushina. She was from the former lands of whirlpools. As for your father, Naruto kept on looking at his sensei, waiting impatiently for his father's name. His name was Namikaze Minato, but he is better known as the fourth Hokage. Naruto made some movement and it made him fall backwards. His head bumped on the floor as he stayed laying on the floor looking up with a shocked expression, not believing what he just heard. The fourth? No way, impossible. Tsunade had stand up and looked at the other side of her desk. Naruto? What? It sounded weak, but Tsunade sighed, glad he hadn't passed out. Why did he seal Kyuubi in me? Back to the same question so soon, but who can blame him? His own father sealed it in him, Tsunade thought. Jiraiya, Minato was your student, you know more about it than I do. Naruto remained on the floor, not moving an inch. Naruto, I wish I could answer that question more precise than I am about to, but unfortunately I cannot do that, for even I don't know and your father never had the change to tell. But I will tell you what I know. The blonde replied with a hoarse, okay. First of all, the fourth split the chakra into two halves. A dark and a light side. The light side is what is sealed in you. The dark side is sealed away somewhere else, what is not important at this moment. You ought to know that your father was considered a genius and he would never do something without a reason. This is, as I said, unknown to me and you have to find it yourself, but I believe you will when needed. Find it out myself? How? Said Naruto, still staring at the ceiling and still shocked. You don't have to search for it, I think, but don't forget we will always help you if needed, his sensei said. There was another silence. Then, the reason people are starting giving me confused and surprised faces is because I look like my father? Naruto reasoned, remembering the fourth from pictures and all. So you noticed it? Tsunade couldn't help to chuckle at that. She expected from him to shout, but there only came a simple "him" from him. That scared both Sannin a little. So, Namikaze Minato, or fourth Hokage, was my father and he sealed the light side of Kyuubi in me for an unknown reason, and my mother is Uzumaki Kushina, who is from the former land of whirlpools. Naruto summed up monotonic what scared even Jiraiya, even though he had seen the boys serious and sad more often. Yes, answered Tsunade after a short silence. To their surprise Naruto came up. They hadn't seen his expression for had been laying on the floor and they couldn't see, but now saw it was confused and still shocked. I want to be alone for a while, he said, and that was the very first time in his life he actually wanted to be alone. Naruto, don't leave the village, Tsunade said a bit stern. I won't. With that the boy stood up and left the office. While going back to the exit he passed Sakura, Lee, Neji and Tenten, who had just come back from their mission. Hey Naruto, what were you? Sakura trailed off when Naruto just kept on walking as if he hadn't heard. The four looked confused at his back until he turned around the corner. What happened to him? I think he hadn't heard me at all. But the other three couldn't give an answer. Hinata was worried. Naruto hadn't visited her yesterday. Now she knew he had said it could happen. He wouldn't come after 8 p.m., so that was not the whole reason she was worried. What worried her was that he hadn't come yet today, while he had said it would be the first thing in the morning he would do. Right now it was already past noon and she, her sister, father and cousin were eating their lunch. Hanabi was quickly finished and got permission to leave. Hinata took long because she was somewhere else with her thoughts. I take it he hasn't come yet, Hiyashi said and looked at his oldest daughter. The girl only gave a small nod. Who? Neji asked. Naruto-kun. He had stopped by every day to give a report on his progress searching for the shy girl trailed of. Neji blinked a few times and gave his cousin a teasing look, but stopped with that when he saw her worried face. I see. Hinata-sama, This wouldn't take your worry away, but I saw him yesterday when I came back from my mission. He had a distant look on his face and hadn't heard Sakura greeting him. The girl looked at her cousin, getting even more worried than she was 5 minutes ago. She turned to her father. "See, can I go search for him?" she asked. After a moment or two the Hyuga heir nodded. "But don't push yourself too much." "Hi." The pregnant one stood up and started her search to the one she loves. At the gate Neji called out for her and the girl turned to him. "Let me help. You can't use Byakugan, but I can. An. She is pregnant, channeling your chakra is difficult then and it warns one out." The genius activated his bloodline limit. "He isn't at his home," he told not long after searching. "Please check the ramen bar, training grounds in Hokage Mountain," the shy girl summed up. A little taken aback Neji did. His face got suspicious when the one he was looking for wasn't at the first two places Hinata had said, but he sighed relieved when he found him. "He's on top of the Hokage Mountain. Arigato Neji ni-san." Neji nodded and deactivated his Byakugan. The young Kunoichi started walking towards the Hokage Mountain. Naruto was sitting on the ground. Normally he could see the village when being at the place he was now, but today he was sitting more near the few trees that were growing there. His head was buried in his arms, which were laying on his knees that were pressed against his body. The blonde had been sitting there ever since he left the Hokage Tower yesterday. Confused about what he had heard and not understanding what he had to do with it. He hadn't heard the footsteps that were coming closer, nor did he hear a girl saying his name in a concerned tone. It was when he felt a hand on his left shoulder when he shook up. He stared at the figure, taking time to realize who it was. "Hi Hinata?" he whispered. "Naruto-kun, what is wrong?" she asked while sitting down next to him. "Nothing," he smiled. "Don't lie. Have you been crying?" The fake smile he had put on his face disappeared and he averted his gaze from her while giving a little nod. Do you want to talk about it?" the girl found herself saying. Naruto first shook his head, then nodded and ended with shrugging his shoulders. "I'm just confused," he then mumbled, looking down to the ground in front of him. "Why are you confused? Neji ni-san told me you hadn't seen them while you passed him, Lee-san, Sakura-san and Tenten-san. You also didn't hear Sakura-san saying something to you." Naruto turned to look at the Hyuga girl. "I can't remember see or hear them, I kinda was." Again the blonde shinobi averted his gaze from the girl next to him. Quote ellipsis. "Tsunade and Jiraiya told me something about my parents." This shocked the Hyuga heiress a bit and she slowly understood why he was in a very down and confused mood. "Did they tell you who they were?" she asked, hoping not to be rude. He gave a nod. Do you promise not to tell anybody?" "I don't know what to do with it myself, so I don't want everyone to know yet," he hiccuped. "Of course," she promised. He first looked around somewhat, taking his time to start. "First I think I should tell you about. Do you remember the village was attacked by the Kyuubi no Yoko?" "Hi, I heard about it, that was around 17 years ago. The fourth Hokage defeated it, right?" Naruto only gave a nod, not looking at her. "Actually he defeated the fox by sealing it away." "Seal it away?" "Hi, I in me. He sealed it away in me after splitting it in a dark and a light side. The light side is what is sealed in me. That last thing is what Jiraiya told me yesterday." Hinata stared at her friend, who suddenly buried his face in his arms again and started crying. She realized the Kyuubi had been the reason why the villagers treated him like trash. All the grown-ups probably know about that, but no one ever spoke about it. Please don't hate me because of it," Hinata, the crying boy murmured. "I could never hate you, Naruto-kun, you're my friend. And the one I love. Arigato, that means a lot to me, Hinata." The girl couldn't see it, but the blonde smiled a bit. Naruto-kun, what has Kyuubi to do with your parents?" she asked before realizing. Because the one who sealed the Kyuubi in me is my father," he hiccuped again. Hinata was staring at him for several minutes in silence. Slowly processing what Naruto just said. He is the son of the fourth Hokage? How come everyone treated you like trash?" she stuttered stunned. Nobody knew except for Tsunade and Jiraiya, it was some secret. The third probably knew and maybe Kakashi-sensei as well, but that would probably be it. It was to protect me from my father's enemies. He was looking up again and tried rubbing away his tears, an effort he failed in. "I don't know what to do now. Naruto-kun, you are still you. No matter who your parents were. You are still Naruto-kun. He stared bluntly at her and regained a little smile on his face. You're right. Hinata nodded with a smile. Naruto rubbed the remaining tears away and it was silent again for some time. Both not knowing how long it lasted, it was Naruto that broke the silence first. Well, I think I now understand why Ero Sennin took me as his apprentice. After all, my father was his student once. He even learned me my father's own invented jutsu that only he and I now are able to perform. He held his hand in front of him and a ball of chakra started to form. Oh my, that is beautiful, Hinata whispered. Naruto laughed. It's called Rasengan. Jiraiya told me it actually is an incomplete jutsu. It was the idea of manipulating it with nature chakra, what I am trying, but it is still rather difficult. The funny thing is, my father needed a few years to reach the state of Rasengan. I only needed a week. Really, the kunoichi said as she looked with an impressed face at him. Yup, but at that time I needed a kage bunshin for help. I can do it without it now. That's awesome, Naruto-kun. He let the Rasengan disappear with a grin on his face. Thanks, he said more cheerful than a while ago. All of a sudden the Hyuga heiress stood up and ran over to the trees and bushes behind them. Naruto followed her with his face, confused. Hinata? He stood up a minute after that and walked over to the girl. What is it? He asked, puzzled as he found her. Sorry, I started feeling really sick. The blonde kneeled down next to the girl, seeing the result not far away. Are you feeling any better? He asked gently. A bit. Come, let me take you home. After she nodded, he helped her standing up. The two started walking back to the village. Hey Hinata? The girl tried to avoid talking again, afraid her food might come up. Thanks for cheering me up. She gave him a smile as reply. Team 7, or rather, Naruto and Sakura were on their way to the village Hinata had stayed during her mission. Like promised, he hadn't said a word about the illegal pub she had been to. Naruto, can you slow down somewhat, please? Sure, the blonde responded sighing and he slowed down. Flashback. Come on Ba-chan, I want to find clues in that town Hinata has been to. He slammed both his hands on the Tsunade's desk looking straight at her. How can he act like this after the way he left yesterday? I can't just send you there alone and you know that. The young shinobi growled, shooting her death glares, but received them as well from her. Naruto turned around to face his teammate. Here are the reports of the hospital, the pink-haired said and gave the Hokage a handful of papers. Thanks, she sighed. Her student walked back to the door, but stopped when Naruto said her name. Sakura, do you have a mission in the next few days? No, she answered confused. Naruto turned to look at Tsunade. Fine, go there, just get lost. The blonde gained a victorious smile on his face and turned to Sakura, who had no idea what this was all about. End flashback. Some hours later the two were walking in the town. They first went to the hotel Hinata and her team had stayed during the mission, but found no clue. Then they went on the street asking around until seeing a love hotel further ahead in one of the streets. Maybe the guy who raped her took her with him to that place, Sakura said. Come on, let's ask. Naruto, it is a love hotel. So? We are a boy and a girl. So? They might think things. So? The pink-haired gave up, followed her teammate to the hotel. Welcome, said a woman at the counter. How long are you youngster planning to stay? We are not here for that, shouted Sakura. Sakura, freaking out like that, might make them think differently, Naruto said calmly, looking at her. Alright, sorry. We would like to know if there has been a shy girl with a Konoha headband around her neck has been forced in by some guy around 5 weeks ago. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to give away who visited us. Listen Missy, we need to know who. She was cut off by Naruto, who placed a hand on her mouth. He looked at her with an annoyed face. Would you please leave, I'll handle this, the blonde said while letting his arm fall down. Fine, snapped the pink-haired and left the hotel with strong steps. Naruto sighed and turned his face back to the lady. I understand you aren't allowed to tell anyone, but this is rather important. The girl my teammate described as a friend of mine and she got pregnant with some guy she cannot remember. I wouldn't say a word to anyone if you tell me. Sir, I would love to help, but like I said I cannot. Naruto leaned on the counter, drumming his fingers while thinking. Okay, then has there been a girl forced inside? We do not allow people that are forcing others inside. Okay, well that helped me a bit. Thanks for your time, Naruto said, giving the lady a smile. He turned around and started walking away. So you aren't going to stay the second time? Nope. Wait, what? He quickly turned around. Second? What is she talking about? Oh, that reminds me. I almost forget. Wait a moment, sir. She left for a minute, leaving Naruto confused, repeating the word, second, in his head. You left your shirt behind, the last time, the woman said and gave him a black shirt. Okay, well thank you. Bye, he said and walked to the door. What the hell is that woman thinking? Naruto put the shirt in his backpack and then exited the Love Hotel. He found Sakura somewhere down the street. And? She asked. Hinata hasn't been there. They don't allow people that force others inside. Okay, how did you get that out of her? I have my ways of gathering information. You kissed her. Now this made Naruto sigh. That I have spent 4 years with that pervert doesn't mean I took over his habits. His friend made a sound that she was relieved about this. I'm still surprised you got the information out of her, she said. Hey, information gathering was something we did at least every week. How else do you think we found out about Sasuke killing Orochimaru? By the way, he isn't wandering around alone but has formed his own team that is helping him searching for Itachi. Are really? Yes? Hey you, with the blonde hair. The two turned to the shouting man, who ran up to them. I'm positive, you are one of those guys who got away. I beg your pardon? Naruto said, puzzled. Got away from what? That illegal pub. Don't act dumb. You know where it's located now. I'm sorry, but I don't. Don't talk nonsense, brat. You were there. I saw you. I was the one who chased you with your dark-haired and slender girl. Like I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Next to that, I don't have a girl. Then what about this one? The man snapped while pointing over to Sakura. She isn't my girl but a friend and a teammate for that matter. I think you mistook me for someone else, sir. While the patrol guy had shouted at him, Naruto had remained calm, something that shocked Sakura very much. But because of his calm way of acting, the man was doubting his conclusion. You're right. That guy the first chased was rather rude, unlike you. Sorry for bothering you. Naruto nodded. What was that about? Sakura asked him after the guy left. Some illegal pub, didn't you hear? Naruto, haven't you been to one? Yes, and that was in this town about 3 weeks ago or so. I'm not sure. I didn't really pay attention to it. You lied? Did you want me to get caught? Besides, I don't know where the new one is located, so it doesn't matter. Let's go back home. Are we done here already? Yup, the blonde answered monotone. So the two made their way back to Konoha. While they walked, Naruto was in deep thought. This had 2 reasons. Number 1. The counter lady at the Love Hotel seemed to remember him and gave him a shirt of which he wasn't sure was his. Number 2. The patrol guy recognized him and said he had seen him with a dark-haired slender girl. Now Naruto couldn't remember that he had been to that Love Hotel, neither could he remember that he had been with a girl. But there was one that he shouldn't forget, he had been drunk and he couldn't remember a thing of what he did. Was he correct when he told Sakura he had been here 3 weeks ago? Was that shirt indeed his? Naruto? What are you doing here? The dog boy asked, standing in the doorway of his house. Could you do something for me without asking a question? Depends on what you want, came his reply. You can do it here and now, it will only take I think 30 seconds, maybe less. But no questions, okay. Kiba nodded. Naruto got the shirt he got at the Love Hotel out of his bag. Could you tell me if this is mine? Kiba only needed 10 seconds to say yes. It also has some slight scent of Hinata on it, but I heard you were keeping her in touch with your progress, so that's not such a surprise. Okay, thanks Kiba. I don't need to know more. Naruto put the shirt back in his bag and went homewards. There he let himself fall on his bed to stare at his ceiling. The shirt is mine and that's not all. It has Hinata's scent, while that should be impossible. How? Did I meet her at that town? He scratched his head in an attempt to remember how long it had been that he has been there with Jiraiya. He came to the conclusion it could be that he and Hinata were in that town at the same time. The more he thought about this, the more he was certain he was the one that made her pregnant. The shirt, the drunken night, the woman in the Love Hotel, the patrol guy saying he had chased him. He also remembered Hinata was drunk herself, so was it really him? Frustrated, the boy came up with his hands in his hair, literally. I had to tell her, haven't I? He whispered to himself. So he shoved to the side of the bed and before he would leave he ate a bowl of ramen. Just one, he was too nervous for eating more and he even had a difficulty with that one. After finishing his ramen he hit his head on the table. Oh crap, how do I tell her? Damn it, damn it, damn it, I normally don't jump girls. I'm not like that, why did I do it? Why? He sat up again, trying to figure out why he did that, even though he wasn't 100% sure it was him. He had promised to himself he wouldn't do such a thing except with the girl he loved when he left Konoha 4 years ago. He liked Hinata a lot. She has always been nice to him and cheered him up, calling him strong because he screwed up but kept on going during the Chunin exam. She was the only one who never treated him like trash, not even when all the others did. When he had said hello, she hadn't said, "Get of, idiot," but said hello back in a shy way. When he heard she was pregnant he was upset about it and something told him it wasn't only for her, felt sorry for her. And he had liked spending time with. She actually listened with interest and laughed at his stories. He even entrusted her with his secrets. It had felt great to be with her. Oh crap, he sighed as he realized what his thoughts meant. When did this happen? He turned his head to his alarm clock and hesitated if he should go to her. Well, at least I had to tell her, it isn't that late yet. I think she's still awake. He pushed himself of his chair and slowly walked to his door, pulled his sandals on and left. At the Hyuga residence he met Hiyashi. He had started to grow fond with the man after visiting so much. Naruto, you're back I see. Came back an hour before dinner time, the boy told as if nothing was bothering him. And, any progress? Did you find out who made Hinata pregnant? Well, I am not 100% sure. Tsunade-sama should test it. Is it okay to tell you after the test? I guess I could wait until that. Hinata is in her room, I take it you know the way by now. I know, thank you. Hiyashi-sama. Naruto laughed and walked to Hinata's room. He knocked. Hinata ch. He quickly slammed his hand on his mouth before he could continue his sentence, having a flushed face. He heard footsteps and then the door slid open. In a fast way he let his hand fall down again. Naruto-kun, Hinata said cheerful. Hey, can I come in? The still somewhat flushed boy asked. The shy one nodded and stepped aside. When he was in her room she closed the door. Acting a bit nervous, Naruto turned to her. His nervousness wasn't unnoticed by the girl, but she didn't say a word about it. Hinata, I think, well I have an idea of who it was. I'm not really sure though. I think Tsunade can do a test to prove it. Really? Hinata said, not knowing if she should be happy or sad. The blonde only nodded and walked over to the bed to sit down. She followed his example. Is it someone from that town I went to? No, he's from Konoha. Seriously? Do I know him? Yes, you know him. Hinata started to panic a little. Is he a friend of mine? The boy sitting next to her averted his gaze and nodded. I don't think I can kick his butt, your father has to do that. Who is it? The nervous shinobi looked at the girl at his side out of the corners of his eyes, seeing her panicked face. I think it's Emmy, he finally mumbled. The dark-haired stared at him, not believing what he just said. But that's impossible, she brought in. Why is he saying that? That's what I thought too, but it isn't, he said looking at the floor. Yes it is. You were with Jiraiya 5 weeks ago. It can't be, it's impossible. He turned his face to her, looking sad. I know what you think, but let me explain. Remember you told me you have been to an illegal bar and got drunk? The shy girl nodded, almost breaking into tears. I told you I got drunk myself as well. We actually were both at the same illegal bar. I don't remember a thing from it, but when Sakura and I were checking in the Love Hotel there, the counter lady said I had been there before and gave me a shirt I left behind. Now when I woke up the morning after my little alcohol adventure I happened to not wearing my shirt. Still I didn't really believe the shirt was mine, so I went to Kiba to check. He said it has your scent on it as well. Hinata started crying. Naruto tried to keep himself from hugging her to comfort her somewhat but failed the effort and pulled her close to him. I'm an idiot, I know, and I am really sorry. I didn't want it to happen. You probably like someone else and get stuck with me making you pregnant. I'm really sorry. Why, you said you weren't totally sure about it, right? You really don't see me as a father figure, do you? He said, sounding even more depressed. That's not it. I rather want you as the father than some total stranger. The statement cheered him up a little. Do you hate me if it really is me? No, of course not. Not even a little? No, not even a little. You're a friend. Naruto smiled as he pulled her even closer than she already was. Hinata-chan, would you let me be the father even if I turn out not to be? Why do you ask? You are free to go when it isn't. Wait, did he just add Chan to my name? I lived without a family. I wanted to have a mother and father. Hinata looked at his face and saw his blush. Naruto-kun. He gave her a questioned look, releasing her a bit from his hug. Why did you call me Hinata-chan? I did? Asked, blushing some more. This made Hinata chuckle. His reaction was too funny not to do. He averted his gaze, a little embarrassed. Well, that's because I like you. I know, you told me that before. When Chunin exam, she said simply. Naruto grinned a bit as he turned to look at the girl again. I don't mean that kind of like, silly girl. He bent over to her. I mean I love you. The blonde kissed her on her cheek. The shy one was stunned to hear this, too stunned to even pass out. Her face slowly became red as she kept on looking in one direction. Hey, Hinata-chan. The boy who just confessed to her whispered. She turned her face slowly to his azure blue eyes that showed his love for her. Some tears rolled over his cheeks again, but these were from happiness, and she wrapped his arm around his neck. He was a little taken aback by this, but soon she felt his strong arms around her. I love you, Naruto-kun. I have loved you ever since the academy, she cried in happiness. She felt he pulled her even closer and he buried his head in her neck. After what felt an entirety, he pulled back and looked into her eyes with a soft smile. Let's go to Tsunade to do a test, okay? She nodded, but before she knew what was happening he pulled her into a kiss. Feeling rather nervous, the blonde-haired boy knocked on the door of the Hokage office at 10:15 in the night. He gave the girl next to him a quick glance, saw her even more uneasy face and squeezed gently in her hand to say he wouldn't let her do this alone. She gave him a smile while the new couple heard a "come in" at the other side of the door. Naruto opened the door and he and Hinata entered. To their relief, there was nobody else in the room. What are you two doing here at this hour? I think I know made Hinata-chan pregnant, but I'm not 100% sure, so we need you to test it, the shinobi said, looking away from the Hokage. Hinata-chan? Tsunade thought, a little surprised. I see. Well, of course I help. Naruto now turned to look at her with a smile. Thanks. Now tell me, who is this person? The blonde gained a blush on his face while he mumbled. Me. Tsunade raised one eyebrow looking at the kid. And how would that be possible? I told that I have been drunk, right? The slug only nodded. That was at the time Hinata was in that town as well. We met, but I can't remember. You met? Then you jumped her, gave her the shock of her life, and she forgot because she was traumatized of that. The Hokage reasoned. No. I would never traumatize Hinata-chan. Anyo, Tsunade-sama. I wasn't traumatized. I forgot because I was drunk myself. Tsunade turned to look at her, not believing what the Hyuga just said. You were drunk? I was. The blonde woman laid her shaking head in her head and sighed. How can this be? I still don't understand. Naruto, how did you find out? I said I'm not sure, but me reasons for this. Naruto told about the counter lady at the Love Hotel, the shirt and the patrol. At the end, the Hokage leaned back in her chair. You're right, all this leads to you, Naruto. That's why I want you to do that test. I will, but before that. The slug sat normal again and looked at the pair at the other side of her desk. Are you two together? Naruto, you keep adding "chan" to Hinata's name and you two are holding hands. Why, yeah, so? Is something wrong with that? He answered, blushing as much as Hinata. No, nothing is wrong with it at all. I actually find it kind of cute. The couple blinked a few times, getting a bit redder, looked at each other for a second with a puzzled face, and then both looked away. Now Tsunade found this rather amusing, but tried not to show it or to start laughing. Instead of that, the woman stood up and walked around the desk. She got too confused following her with their gaze while she walked to the door. Come on, let's do this right now, if that is okay with you. They nodded and followed the blonde. In the hospital, Naruto only had to give a spit sample and then was told to wait outside the room. He left without protesting and leaned against the wall in the hallway. Half an hour later, his girlfriend came out of the room. I will have the results tomorrow morning at, let's say, 9 o'clock. Come to me at the Hokage office, okay? The young lovers nodded and left, while Tsunade went back in the room to get started with the test. The blonde had his arm around the shy one's shoulders, who had her trademark blush on her cheeks. Shall I bring you home? He asked. She shook her head. I might wake people up and I don't think I can go to sleep. This feeling makes me unable to. Is Naruto-kun really the father? Naruto looked over to her with a warm smile. I don't think I can too. Let's go to my place and watch television until we get tired or just enjoy ourselves. Hinata flushed crimson red as she looked at him. He grinned a little and gave her a kiss on her cheek. Leaving our clothes on, okay? Oh okay. Hinata knew she had seen him naked before. If it really was him that was the father of the life that was growing inside her. How else did she got pregnant? At least she must have seen a guy naked. But she was not yet used to the fact that she now was Naruto's girlfriend. And she definitely wanted to wait with the next step, something that they might have already done, but she putted that aside. She would be curtain about it next morning. Not that much later the couple found themselves in Naruto's apartment. It was messy in a sort of way. It looked like a bookshelf had fallen, except there wasn't one. Whoops, I forgot about that. Sorry Hinata-chan, the boy said ashamed. He gathered the books and scrolls and put them in a drawer. After that it looked cleaned up, except for that one ramen bowl in the kitchen. What were all those scrolls and books doing on the floor and table? She asked. I was doing some research about my parents and some just you, he answered and gently got both her hands. He guided her to his couch, sat down and pulled her on his lap. Hinata was taken by a sudden kiss as soon as she had sat down. Surprised only for a moment, she joined the kiss a second after. It started soft and sweet in the beginning, which went on for 5 minutes. After that it deepened, with more passion. Then Naruto let himself slide to the side and was laying with her on top of him. Both still no intention of stopping. They went on for it what could be an hour or maybe more and stopped when both had no breath left. Hinata slowly got up and opened her eyes to meet his, which were showing his love for her. He sat up, taking her with him and reached over to his bed for the blanket. He laid it over her shoulders as he kissed her cheek. You should try to get some sleep, he whispered. She hugged him. What about you? I will try too, he answered smiling. The girl smiled back and released him from her hug. She laid her head on his shoulders. I wonder what father would say when he finds out I'm not home. Naruto laid an arm around her. Don't worry about that too much now. After 10 minutes the shy kunoichi had asleep and had her head laying on the blonde-haired's lap. He played with her hair, smiling at the sleeping beauty and placed the blanket so it covered her better than it was doing before he did that. After half an hour he was asleep as well. Hinata woke up, but had yet to open her eyes. She was laying on something that was moving and her soft snoring. Wanting to know where she was, she opened her eyes and looked over to where the noise was coming from. And Naruto-kun? She thought, panicked and shot up. Something she shouldn't have done. Moving too fast in the morning made her dizzy. So the girl needed a moment to recover from that. She looked over to him and tried to remember what happened last night. A blush appeared as she remembered Naruto telling her he loved her and that he could be the father of the child inside her. The girl looked over to her still sleeping boyfriend, hesitated if she should do what she had in mind and finally decided to just do it. She leaned over to him and gave a soft kiss on his mouth. He responded, before opening his eyes. It's time to wake up, Naruto-kun, she whispered as she kissed him a second time. Naruto opened his eyes, still somewhat sleep-drunk, and found Hinata telling him to wake up and she kissed him. That waked him up and let him flush a little, but he kissed her back. The kiss lasted only for 5 minutes. What time is it? The blonde asked. 8:30, his girlfriend answered. Let's get a breakfast and go see Tsunade, he stated smiling. The boy stood up and walked to the kitchen. He made a breakfast for him and Hinata, a scrambled egg with toast. The couple ate it and left to go see Tsunade with the result about the test. Arriving at the Hokage office, Naruto knocked on the door. Come in, Tsunade said from the other side. The two entered and were told to sit down. Meanwhile Naruto noticed Shizune was in the office as well. Do you kids want me to be straightforward? Lady Hokage asked. They both did and Tsunade started laughing. Okay, let me just tell you. The answer is you were right, Naruto. The two stared at the Hokage. Hinata had started to pale. And Naruto-kun really is the father. He is. Oh my god, I. The girl fainted but was caught in time by her boyfriend. Hinata-chan? Naruto said, not knowing how to act at that moment. Don't worry, I think the shock was too much for her. She's be fine. Are you sure? Yes. The blonde sighed relieved and picked the girl up bride style, but decided that wasn't such a good idea if he was about to carry her home over those damn crowded streets, so he placed her on his back. Before leaving, he turned to the legendary slug. Anyo, what about Kyubi? Does it influence anything? No, don't worry about that. Now you better bring her home and promise me one thing. No more alcohol until you're 21. Hi, no more alcohol until that day. He left and Tsunade sighed. Naru, what happened to Hinata? Hiyashi asked when the blonde carried the Hyuga heiress on his back entering the living room. She passed after, well, I think we should wait until she wakes up before I tell you, Hiyashi-sama. The Hyuga heir nodded, while Naruto lay the girl he was carrying on the sofa. Can you tell me where she was last night? With me, she didn't want to wake anybody up. It was pretty late when we left Tsunade yesterday night. Again Hiyashi nodded. Do you mind some tea? Yes please. The blonde walked over to the table the Hyuga leader was sitting at and sat down in lotus style, while Hiyashi made his tea ready. Naruto drank his tea with ease, and when he was finished he and Hiyashi heard a noise that gave away the girl was waking up. Where am I? She asked and started to get in her surroundings. It was her home, the living room to be precise. You're awake. How do you feel? Father? I feel fine. She trailed off when she saw her lover sitting at the tea table, looking at her. A few shades of red covered her face. Naruto-kun, did you tell? She carefully asked. He shook his head. Come here Hinata and have a cup of tea. Hi, the girl said softly. Again the Hyuga leader made tea and Hinata drank it carefully so she wouldn't burn her mouth. So, tell me, why did you pass out, Hinata? Her father asked, but it wasn't in the rude way he used to do when she was 12. The dark-haired placed her cup on the table and stared at it. Tsunade-sama gave the results of the test. And? The Hyuga leader asked looking curious. It was positive, she said, looking at Naruto for help. There was a silence. Anyo, Hiyashi-sama, you had to kick his butt, for I cannot do that, Naruto said. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered a little shocked. Then who is this person? He's sitting in front of you. Naruto quickly said a few tone higher than his normal voice but yet not yelling. Meanwhile he looked down. This got the Hyuga heir off guard and he blinked a few times staring the blonde in front of him. You? That would be impossible, weren't you on a journey with Jiraiya-sama at that time? Naruto nodded and started to explain, with some help of his girlfriend who told her side. Finishing their story the couple was looking at Hiyashi with nervous looks. The man stared at them with a face that gave away no expression. He slowly turned to his daughter. Are you telling me you got drunk? Hi, she muttered out. Her father continued to stare at her, but Hinata was shocked when he suddenly started to laugh. Oh my, I cannot believe you actually did something like that, Hinata. It's so not like you, he guffawed. This made the girl blush. I know, I was a bit impulsive that day. You should do that some more, her father chuckled. The shy girl's eyes widened and she glanced at her father, who turned to Naruto. Naruto started to slowly crawl a bit backwards, avoiding eye contact, panicking a little. I am really sorry, I didn't mean to. When I left the village I promised myself not to jump a girl unless I love her, but it seems that in my drunken mood I realized it better than when not drunken. The Hyuga heir gave him a death glare. This worried the blonde, because the man had gone from amusement to anger in an instant. Anyo, like I said a moment ago, you can kick my butt as much as you want, but please leave me alive. And why should I leave you alive? Father, don't. It's also my own fault, I gave in. Apparently you indeed did. Please don't fight him. Hinata-chan, I deserve it. No, she looked Naruto who looked back at her with a guilty face. The two turned their face to the Hyuga heir when he let out another chuckle. Don't worry, I'm not going to fight anyone. This said both the blonde as the dark-haired let out a sigh of relief. Hiyashi looked at the two, with a smile. But you both need to promise me no more alcohol, understood? Hi, both replied. Good, as for you Naruto. You have to take care of Hinata and the kid when it is born. I wouldn't want it any other way, the boy replied with a smile. Oh, Hiyashi let out raising one eyebrow. Naruto turned to look at the floor gaining red in his face. I love Hinata-chan. Hinata blushed and was amazed he had the guts to say that in front of her father. She then noticed her father's look and flushed. Anyo, I love Naruto-kun, father. I had noticed already, but I wanted you to say it yourself. You've grown, Hinata, her father said. It sounded that he was proud of her. The couple looked at each other and smiled. It was an hour after noon. A few hours ago the couple had heard that Naruto was indeed the father of the child in Hinata. Now the boy was on his way to his teammate, Sakura, and sensei, Kakashi, to tell them the news. The girl was on her way to find her own team to tell. Maybe the training grounds, the blonde thought and walked to that place. Reaching it he saw an annoyed-looking Sakura, looking his way. She jabbed her finger to him. "You're later, Naruto. We were supposed to meet 3 hours ago. You're even later than Kakashi-sensei. Since when do you slack training?" "Training?" he mumbled, surprised. Sakura twitched her eye. Kakashi on the other hand looked amused. "Naruto, it seems you picked up my tardiness." No, not really," the boy told as he looked at his sensei. "Then why are you late?" the pink-haired demanded to know. "I had some things on my mind that I totally forgot that we had training." "Goem, Sakura-chan, calm down. Naruto-kun probably had a really good reason to be late," the blue beast of Konohagaru said as he gave his girlfriend a kiss on cheek. The blonde tried very hard not to laugh, while he saw his teammate clam down. "Why are you late, Naruto?" the gray-haired asked. Anyo," his student started, not knowing how to put it into words. The boy started to blush a little. 3 pairs of eyes were fixated at him, while he turned his gaze to the ground. "I'm gonna be father," he finally muttered. "You're going out with Hinata," the pink-haired stated, getting a smile on her face. "That's good to hear. She really needs something to cheer her up." Naruto sighed and turned to look at her. "Sakura, that's not what I mean," he said, gaining his confidence back. The girl said, confused. "I mean I am the father. Biologically, okay." The 3 shinobi were looking at him, confused. The first one to speak was Lee. "That's wonderful news, congratulations," the black-haired young man said, jumping like he was told he was the one who was going to be father. Thanks, I think." Kakashi simply smiled at him. It was Sakura that could not believe this. "That is impossible. You were still on your journey with Jiraiya at that time." "True, but, Lee, see, Neji, I told you he would be with Sakura," Tenten teased her teammate. Lee gave his 2 friends that had just arrived a questioned look. "Guy-sensei told us to get you, we have training," Neji explained. "Oh, okay, then Lee looked puzzled when he saw Sakura grab Naruto's arm. Sakura, let go of me. Where are you taking me?" the blonde shouted, trying to free himself without hurting his friend. "I am not believing this, so I go to ask Hinata." "Sakura-san, Hinata-sama isn't at the Hyuga residence." Sakura watched Neji, not knowing what to do for a moment. "Of course she isn't. Hinata-chan is going to tell Kiba, Shino and Kurenai-sensei." Immediately after saying that and seeing Sakura's face he could just slap himself. "Damn, I shouldn't have said that." And then he was pulled into another direction. "Would you just believe me?" Sakura, Neji and Tenten were looking at this event with confusion. "What is this all about?" Tenten asked. "If you follow them you might find out," Kakashi said, smiling behind his mask. The Hyuga and the weapon master looked at each other for a moment or two, before following the blonde and pink-haired. The Hyuga heiress had finally found her teammates. "Yo, Hinata," Kiba said when he spotted her. The others turned to look at her as well and stopped the spar. "Hinata, how are you feeling? Did you come by to watch the training?" her teacher asked. Hinata shook her head a little. "No, I have something to tell you." "Spill it out," Kiba barked with a smile. "Anyo, we figured out who the father is." The girl started to blush a little. "Who is it? Do we know him?" "Hi, you know him. Believe it, damn it." Hinata quickly turned around and saw her boyfriend being pulled by a stern-looking pink-haired. Naruto looked pissed, but as soon he noticed her it faded away. Hinata's eyebrow rose a little when the girl that held her boyfriend's arm so firmly stopped in front of her. "Hinata, is it true?" For every other person this question would have made no sense at all. But Hinata understood what this was about. "She doesn't want to believe me, Hinata-chan," Naruto mumbled while shooting his teammate an angry look. "Hi, Sakura-san, it's true." "What's true?" another voice said. This one belonged to her cousin who looked confused. "Yeah, what is it that Sakura doesn't believe?" asked a confused Tenten. Sakura was looking at Naruto, still not believing it totally. "Why do you believe Hinata-chan and not me?" Naruto snapped, while he finally got out of her grip. "Because Hinata doesn't lie. Like I would lie about such a thing." Also, Hinata-chan can lie as well. Okay, would somebody just tell me what is going on? Kiba yelled, very confused. Anyo, Kiba, Naruto-kun is the father. The one that hadn't heard this yet turned their gaze to Naruto. He only smiled at them. How is that possible? Kurenai asked, puzzled, trying to understand this. Sensei D, do you remember when I was ill during that B-rank mission? Yes, we never figured out why you were ill. Anyo? I lied when I said I didn't know. I had been drinking the night before and I met Naruto-kun. See, Hinata-chan can lie, the blonde informed his teammate. Hinata-sama? Does Hiyashi Dono know about this? Neji asked after a short silence. Hi, Naruto-kun, and I told him this morning. And your father is fine with it? Kiba shouted. Suddenly Naruto was standing next to him. Do you have any problems with it, dog boy? The bog boy shuddered. Well, I don't see you as a father, that's all. Naruto only glanced at him for a moment, then he walked over to Hinata and gently grasped her hand. He whispered something in her ear and she nodded. After that the two left, leaving some with puzzled faces. Sakura sighed. Well, I don't know what to say. Hinata suddenly seems happy with being pregnant. Not just that, Sakura-chan, her boyfriend said. She gave him a questioned look. They're together now, remember? What I know is that Hinata-san always loved Naruto-kun. That's why she is so happy. The pink-haired nodded, but some others were again shocked. Naruto had his arm around his girlfriend's shoulders. Together with her, Hiyashi, Neji and Hanabi, he was on his way to the Hokage's place. All of them were invited for a dinner party. Hinata was now 2 months far and you started to see she was pregnant. Still she was looking like a true beauty and many boys shot Naruto a jealous glare when they saw them walking close to each other like now. Once in a while, every 5 minutes actually, the blonde gave her kiss on her cheek. This made Hanabi walk in front of them, not wanting to see her sister being whelmed up in passionate kisses. Argg, would you two stop? The young Hyuga girl said, annoyed when she heard her sister giggling. The blonde laughed at this comment. One day you gonna do it yourself, Hanabi-san. No way, she replied and was glad they finally reached their destination. The Hyuga leader knocked on the door and it was Shizune that opened it and let them in. Inside there were already most of the guests. Several jonin, including Kakashi, who was enjoying himself with Anko, both bent over Icha Paradise Volume 1 and Kurenai in Asuma's arms. Shikamaru, who was playing shogi with a frustrated-looking Choji. Ino was talking with Sakura and Tenten and all three suddenly started to laugh. Lee looked a bit depressed because the girls, or actually, his girlfriend had pushed him away saying she wanted to have a girl talk with Ino and Tenten. Guy was trying to cheer the boy up. Kiba was playing with Akamaru and Shino was sitting, waiting for dinner to start. The blonde also noticed Iruka and Jiraiya. I hope Jiraiya hasn't heard about it yet. He glanced over to the girl next to him, that would be really bad. The couple sat down at some free chairs, out of sight of the pervert. When the last guests arrived, dinner started. It was a night full of laughing, talking and sometimes a bit embarrassing. Everyone enjoyed the food, but the fun was interrupted when suddenly 3 uninvited Hyuga entered the room. Tsunade gave them an annoyed look. They're from the Hyuga Council, the dark-haired whispered a bit frightened in her boyfriend's ear. What are you doing here? You aren't invited, Tsunade snapped. You could tell she was drunk. The 3 paid no attention to the Hokage, scanned the room and found what they were looking for. Hiyashi-sama, how can you not tell us Hinata-sama is pregnant? The girl that was mentioned felt everyone's gaze turned to her and started to feel uncomfortable. The blonde looked at her and laid a hand on her leg, something that wasn't noticed by anyone. And even worse, she's going out with that monster. Naruto rapidly turned his head to the 3 council members, looking angry. It's not surprising it was quiet for a moment. Well, Tsunade made some noise, for she was told by Jiraiya to keep her quiet. For your information, I'm not a monster, Naruto hissed angrily, while the temperature dropped some grades. Stay out of this, brat, and leave Hinata-sama's side, because we heard you are the one who made her pregnant. Some jonin were surprised to hear this and turned their gaze towards the blonde. Jiraiya joined them and looked surprised, but definitely proud on his student. Listen, brat, another of the 3 said, the Hyuga clan has rules that all members ought to follow. Hinata-sama can't be with you. She has to choose someone within the clan or her marriage is arranged to some nobleman or someone among those lines. You, on the other hand, are an orphan with K. I wouldn't end that sentence, Hiyashi interrupted calmly. The three council members glared at him. You agreed with this? It seems like it, doesn't it? The three growled and one of them turned his glare back to Hinata. It will be removed, and you aren't allowed to see the monster again. This is what the council decided. And if you don't listen to use the caged seal will be placed on you. The blonde was frozen for a moment as he saw the three turn around. He stared at them, just like every other in the room, all taken off guard from this statement. He started to realize what they had said and jumped up from his chair. Hold on a minute, he yelled. Everyone turned to look at the blonde, including the three Hyuga council members. What do you want? One of them snapped. Naruto hesitated, looked at Hinata, then at Tsunade and Jiraiya. Only this way, I might all turn out all right. You said a noble man or someone among those lines. What do you mean by that? Hey, fine, we explain. If you had a rich parents or they were well respected in Konoha something like that, then we would be all right with it. The young shinobi gained a smile on his face. In that case, brat. You're an orphan. True, definitely true, but my parents, especially my father, was very well known and even feared by other countries. While Hinata stared at her boyfriend, knowing what was he about to say, Jiraiya and Tsunade both smiled at the boy. Oh really? One of the council members said unimpressed. Yup, Naruto smiled, while getting looks from his friends. Then, who might this person be? You three are even more stupid than most villagers. They started giving me stunned looks, probably releasing who my father was. Who? Naruto only smiled. Namikaze Minato. This didn't ring a bell by the young shinobi in the room, but it certainly did to the three council members and several grown-up. Whispering started as Naruto continued to look at the three. Is this true? I can't believe this, Minato's son. No way. You have to admit he has the looks of his father. He acts more like his mother. The blonde ignored the whispers and continued his glare. Fine, you two can be together, one said, and with that the three left. Naruto, who is Namikaze Minato? The pink-haired asked her teammate. Sakura, Minato is none other than the fourth Hokage, the village hero, Iruka answered. Now the youngsters looked in disbelief at their blonde-haired friend. Is this true? Ino asked. It is, Jiraiya said. It was kept a secret to protect me from my father's enemies, the blonde said while sitting down. It took a while before everyone was over this sudden information. Naruto was getting crazy by all the questions. Hinata-chan, want to get some fresh air? He whispered in his girlfriend's ear. She nodded, still somewhat overwhelmed she was allowed to stay with him. Outside she leaned against him. Naruto-kun, is it okay with you that they all know? As long as it keeps you and our child safe, I am, he answered with his trademark smile. It made the girl flush and she leaned over to kiss him. It was 7 months later and a blonde-haired Jonin was rushing back to his home village. During the 7 months he had taken the Chunin exam and showed he was even worth the rank of Jonin. So a day after he promoted to Chunin, Tsunade promoted him to Jonin. The council even insisted it. The Hokage told him no one ever was promoted so fast to Jonin, when just being a Chunin. Now back to the reason why he was rushing. It had 2 reasons. Number 1. He had gathered information about Iwa and that they were planning an attack within a month from now. He had been spying around for 2 entire months, figuring out when the attack was planned, what their force was and every little detail that was important. His cage Bunshin had been a main part in this spying mission he was sent on alone, for only he was able to do this mission. Though, this wasn't the main reason for him to hurry. The main reason was that day was coming closer or had already come. The day his child would be born. He didn't know if it had already happened or it was happening now. All he knew, he now has to go home as fast as he could. The blonde suddenly stopped when he saw an old friend in his team. A few meters away from the tree Naruto was sitting in. Sasuke, the raven-haired, had noticed the blonde, who made a sudden movement and had passed his best friend. Naruto, Sasuke growled, what are you doing here? Hunting me down and wanting to drag me back to Konoha? Naruto looked at his friend, or brother or rival, with a serious face and made a cage bunshin. This made the raven-haired attack, but he was pushed away because he had underestimated him. The real Naruto turned his back to him after placing something in the bunshin's hand, and continued his journey. The raven-haired got confused, though he didn't show. What's the meaning of this? You think you can beat me by just one cage bunshin, dope? No, for I am not gonna fight you. Then what were you doing here? Hey, just a coincidence, Teme. I'm in too much of a hurry to let the real me talk to you, so you had to do it with a simple cage bunshin. Sasuke growled and made another attack, but it was discarded as easy as the first one. Listen to me, Sasuke, after that I'll be gone. Fine, Sasuke-kun, don't listen to him and just kill him, Karen yelled. I see you have another fangirl in your team, the blonde snorted. Just say what you want to say, I have better things to do. Fine, let's go down to business immediately then. First of Itachi is about 500 miles away from here to the north. I don't care if you really hunt him down, just one question. What are you gonna do when you killed him? The black-haired was taken aback by that question. Wandering around the world? There came no answer. Come back to Konoha when you killed him, Sasuke. I served my bonds with Konoha. No, you didn't. You still are a Leaf Village shinobi. I've been keeping tabs on you, you never killed until necessary. TCH. You might have served the bond of friendship between us, which for me isn't, but you never served our other bond, Sasuke. We both suffered and such a bond is unable to break, but the other one? We still have the bond as rivals, Teme. What is your point, dope? The Uchiha said after a long silence. Like I said before, come back to Konoha when you killed Itachi and find yourself a new dream to live up to. Also, the blonde showed the odd-shaped kunai in his hand. He had hid it behind his back. That shape, Jugo said. I see you recognized it, then do you know who used it before me? That would the fourth Hokage. Indeed. Naruto turned his look back to Sasuke. Now let me explain. I can use the Flying Thunder God technique with this kunai. The seal on it only works for me, and it's unable to get it off. You put some chakra in it, throw it and I'll appear in a second. If you accept it, I promise Tsunade-sama won't send any Jounin or Anbu after you. You don't have to use it at all, just accept it. If you accept, you also promise to come back to Konoha when you finished your job. The two rivals stared at each other, then Naruto threw the odd-shaped kunai and Sasuke caught it. This made the blonde smile. How can I be sure Konoha wouldn't send anyone after me? I'm a Jounin and with good terms with the Hokage, Sasuke. Jounin, huh? Fine, I accept your kunai and I promise to go back to Konoha after I killed Itachi, but what about my team? If they want, they are allowed to come as well of course. But one thing you shouldn't forget. If you betray us again, I'll personally hunt you down. And you think you can do something to me? You might be a Jounin, you can't beat me. Hey, you think so? Let me show you my full power. What is just 1/10 of the real me, then consider your statement again. With that the blonde cage bunshin started drawing chakra and it was swirling around his body. Sasuke was impressed by this, not just a bit, for he realized the power this bunshin was letting out was around 1/7 of his own. The power disappeared again. Well then, now that this is clear, I gotta go. I want to know how Hinata-chan is. You're with Hinata? Yup. Oh, and when you come back you should see my kid. The blonde grinned and disappeared. His kid? The real Naruto smiled when the information of his shadow clone came to him. He raced the last part back to Konoha and was greeted by Lee. Naruto-kun, you're just in time. Sakura told me to wait here in case you might come back today. Hinata-san is in labor, Fuzzy Brows said. Naruto stared at him for a moment, starting to process the fact he was about to become father. Come on, he yelled cheerfully and raced towards the hospital. A few hours later Naruto was sitting next to an exhausted Hinata, who was holding their daughter. The blonde kissed his girlfriend on the head, while he rubbed his right hand. Hinata had pinched in it with full force. What will her name be? Sakura asked. Kyoko, the new mother said. The blonde laid his arm around her. Hyuga Kyoko, right. The dark-haired nodded with some tears in the corners of her eyes and a smile. Hi. Sakura nodded and wrote the name on a paper. Then she left the couple alone. I'm proud of you, Hina-chan, the shinobi whispered and kissed her again. I'm sorry I pinched so hard. Nah, you were probably in more pain than I am now. What am I saying? You most definitely were in more pain. The two smiled and watched their sleeping daughter. She had the hair color of her father and, thought you couldn't see it now, the Byakugan of her mother. 4 years had passed and many things had changed in Konoha. And this was the place Sasuke and his team was going to, for he had promised his rival to do so. The Uchiha still had some injuries of the fight, But he had won, he had beaten his brother. The thing that scared him a bit was that Naruto had been right about one thing. If Sasuke hadn't promised his rival to come home after the fight with his brother, he wouldn't have a goal left in his sleeve. Now, reaching the village, he had that feeling once again. At the gate it was an unfamiliar face that greeted them. "Halt, state your business." "Wait, you're Uchiha Sasuke, right?" The raven-haired only replied with a nod. "The Hokage wanted to see you as soon you arrived. Follow me." The Chunin guided the team towards the Hokage building. On their way, nobody said a word. In the Hokage tower they were on the way to the office when they met Tsunade on their way. "Ah, it seems you finally killed your brother." "Hi, I promised Naruto to return after that." Yes, I know. He needed to convince the council you would keep your word, and if you didn't he would go after you." "Do you still have the kunai?" Sasuke showed the odd-shaped kunai to the slug. She gave a smile with a nod. "Okay, then the council will be fine with it." She passed the 5 shinobi and this confused Sasuke. "Oh, by the way. The Hokage isn't in his office, you can find him outside in the gardens," the blonde woman said and left. "She isn't the Hokage anymore?" The Chunin sighed and guided the 4 to the garden just outside the Hokage office. "Almost Kyoko-chan." Naruto smiled to his daughter. "Mo, why can't I hit the bull?" the 4-year-old girl whined. "Don't worry, you will learn it. Just keep practicing," the dark-haired told her daughter. The little blonde girl ran over to the log to get back her kunai. Meanwhile the blonde man pulled his wife in a hug. "She will be all right," he whispered. She will, she has your spirit, Naruto-kun." The blonde smiled and kissed her passionately. "Don't do that when I am around," the kid shouted. Her parents laughed. "Once you're older, you will love it," her mother said. "No. Oh yes you will," her father said. He caught his daughter and started to tickle her. She laughed amused and needed a moment to get some breath when he stopped. "Daddy, when is my little brother coming?" That has to wait a while." The girl turned to look at the grass. "Hokage-sama? Hi?" Naruto said and looked up at the Chunin. "Oh, I see. You may leave, Itsuki, I can take it from here." "Hi." The man left while Naruto turned his look to the raven-haired. "It took you some time, didn't it? Very funny, I see you made your dream come true." "Yup, I even have more than I would have dreamt of." Behind the blonde, Kyoko was taking shelter by her mom. "Mommy, who are those people?" she asked shyly. "The one with the dark hair is your father's friend, the others I don't know, sweetie." The blonde Hokage stood up. "I have some business to do, Hinata-chan, Kyoko-chan." "That's all right, Naruto-kun," Hinata smiled. "You have to see Tsunade at 4, right?" "Hi. Okay, I'll be there then." Naruto walked up with Sasuke. In the office he sat down in his chair and leant back. "You still have the kunai I gave you?" he asked. "Yes, do you want it back?" Nope. You act different, Sasuke. No dream left to pursue?" "Something like that, yes." "Heh, I warned you to get a new one," the Hokage grinned. There was some knocking on the door. "Come in," Naruto replied to it. Kiba, Choji, Sakura, Ino, Neji and Lee entered. Sakura was shocked to see her old teammate. "Sasuke, you're back?" "Yup, it took him long enough," Naruto smiled. "What are you guys doing here?" They all turned to Neji. Naruto raised an eyebrow watching him. "I just became father, his name is Kuki. We came to invite you for sake." Naruto scratched his head. "I want to join the party, but no sake for me. Bad memories with it, or rather, cannot remember something very important because of it." His friends laughed. "Want to join, Sasuke, Jugo, Suigetsu, Karen?" Naruto asked. The last 3 said yes without thought. Sasuke took some longer but eventually nodded. "Okay, but first you all need some new clothes. Ino, Kiba, Choji, take care of that." "Hi, Neji, go tell Hinata," Naruto grinned. "Right, and the Hyuga was of." That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.